Hello, guys. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the session today. Hope you all are doing good. So, let us start this session. Okay. So, if you remember, yesterday we have seen how to create an account and how to enable the project. And after that, how to work with the services using the different interfaces such as console, cloud shell, and cloud SDK as well. Right? Hope you all are creating your accounts as well. So please try to create your account by next week. So we are going to start the practicals from next week onwards. Okay, we will be having our lab sessions in the GCP only. Okay, so yeah, for example, in Google Cloud Platform, the very important aspect is GCP locations that we are going to look at today. What is GCP locations? Why we are learning it? We are going to discuss it today. Okay, so let us start the session. Okay, assume that if the Google is having a plenty of the infrastructure too. Okay, assume that this is the Google's infrastructure, or just think about instead of a Google, I just wanted to give you an idea of how it actually works. For example, assume that a bank, any bank, any bank you can think of. Okay, so there is one bank. What is this bank will is doing is that, so this bank is actually operating its banking transaction and everything only in one of the location. For example, this is a one bank called SBI. Okay, this SBI bank is only available in the New Delhi. Only available in the New Delhi. It is not available in any other state. It is only available in the New Delhi. Okay, what if this particular bank is only available in the New Delhi? What the other state people has to do is that if you wanted to do any of the transactions in the SBI, you have to flew from all the way from your location to you have to go to your New Delhi and go to that particular bank and try to do the transactions there. Okay, so if any of the people who wanted to do the transaction, they have to go to the New Delhi and do the transaction. Okay, instead, this is a very big problem. No one wanted to do it, right? Because me from my village or from my city, all the way from my city, I have to go to the New Delhi. Is taking a lot of time for me, a lot of effort also, because the availability of the SBI is very less, because it is not available nearby me. It is available in the New Delhi. We have to go all the way from our local place. So this is something that one of the availability is very less. So what the SBI has to do is that if the SBI has to increase his customers, or if the SBI has to increase their customer base, what they have to do is that they have to increase their branches. So instead of only having the branch in the New Delhi, they can also increase the branches in all other states as well. All other states as well. Like in AP, Telangana, Bangalore, all of other states. Okay. So you can have the SBI branches in all other states as well. Now, if you are coming from Telangana, or if you are coming from Karnataka, you can go to the capital of that particular Karnataka and you can visit the branch of SBI. So that's perfectly fine now. Okay, I don't need to go to the New Delhi to do the SBI transactions. I can go to the different branches and I can have any of the transaction. I can do it. That's perfectly fine. But what if you are coming from one of the small village and you have to go to the capital of that particular state? It takes again a lot of time and a lot of effort for you. For example, assume that I'm coming from a small village and I have to go to Hyderabad, and for me it takes a lot of time. Okay, what the SBI has to do again, instead of only having the branches in the state capitals, they can also divide their capitals, or they can also divide their branches into each state, and in each district they can also have the branches. In each district they can also have the branches. For example, Hyderabad, Warangal, and different districts we are talking about. District one, district two, district three. Let me talk it about district one, district two, district three, district four, district five. So what it has done, if it has to increase the customer base, what they have done is that instead of having only the branches in the different states, they have also created their own branches in the different districts as well. Now, for me, if I have to go to the branch, what I have to do, I don't need to go to the state, or I don't need to go to the my country's capital. What I can do, I can go to my district level. Also, we have the SBI branches. We can go to that particular branch in the nearby district, and we can do the transactions. Okay, this is perfectly fine. But what happens is that there are some people, or there are some other there are some other banks who are providing the banking activities in the villages and rural cities as well. So if the SBI has to increase their customer base, what they have to do, not only having the branches in the district, they can also have the branches in the villages. Okay, village 1, village 2, village 3, or city 1, city 2, rural cities. So they can also have the branches in different villages and different cities as also. Okay, this way what they have done, the SBI has divided its branches into multiple states, and divided its multiple states into multiple districts, branches into multiple districts, and further divided into multiple villages and cities. Okay, why it is doing? Why the SBI is doing like this? Any bank, not only this bank. If you take any other bank, this is what they do. So because they wanted to provide their services to each and every person, they wanted their service to be available to the each and every person staying in the villages also. Because whenever you try to provide the services to each and every person, that's where you can able to increase the customer base, and your business is going to be good. So this is what we call as a business expansion. Okay, when they have their each and every branch in each villages and cities, that's where they have the plenty of the people started using their company, started using their banking transactions and banking activities. So this is how SBI has increased their customer base, and they have a plenty of people. Okay, those people are they have a plenty of activities, and those activities are banking activities are divided into multiple states, and branches are further divided into districts, and further divided into cities and villages. Okay, so this is how the SBI is managing the entire thing. For the main branch, we'll be having it in the New Delhi or somewhere. The main branch of SBI will be having it in the New Delhi or SBI somewhere. But all other things are managed by each and every state and each and every district and cities and villages. Okay, so this is how. Similarly, Google Cloud Platform is also like that. Google Cloud Platform or GCP or Google Cloud provider also wanted to provide the services, and those services has to be available to each and every person, each and every company, whether it is a small company or a big company, whether each and every employee, if they wanted to use the GCP services, GCP services are or GCP's infrastructure is, if you think that this is GCP's infrastructure, this is infrastructure is divided into 5 locations. Okay, you have the GCP infrastructure available in the North America, South America, Europe, Asia, and Australia. Okay, so Google's infrastructure is available in these 5 locations. These 5 locations are further divided into regions. These regions are further divided into zones. Why they have done this much of division? It's because each and every infrastructure to be available not only in one location but also in all locations, all regions, and all zones, so that the availability of the GCP's infrastructure will be very high. So the main agenda is that the availability has to be there. Okay. So in Google Cloud Platform, if you think that this is entire Google's infrastructure, that entire Google infrastructure is divided into 5 locations. These 5 locations are further divided into regions. Each region is further divided into zones. Zones are actually having the resources. Okay, zones are having the resources. So that's the reason zones are also called as a availability zones. Availability zones or deployment area. Okay, so this is what is something that uh, availability zones or deployment area, because actual resources where it is available, in actual bank where it is available. The if you go to our SBI example, where is the bank situated? Actual bank where it is actually situated? Is it is situated in the New Delhi? No. New Delhi, in one of the district, in one of the village, it is situated. Actually, each branch will be situated in a village or a city. Okay, so this is why we are doing this one. This is to organizing purpose. Okay, only for the proper organization. Okay, so actual resources will be available here. Actual resources will be available in the zones only. So that is the reason zones are called as the availability zones. On top of the resources, we will be doing the deployment. So that's the reason zones are also called as a deployment area. Okay, whenever you have the resources, we will be trying to deploy our applications on top of the resources. So that's the reason we call it as a deployment area also. Okay, so when you have an infrastructure, it will be divided into multiple locations. That means that, for example, if you have 5 infrastructures, for example, if you have 50 infrastructure, it will be 10 here, 10 here, 10 here, 10 here, 10 here. If you take one of the location, that location will be having plenty of the regions. That region will be having plenty of the zones. Okay, so that is how it is. For example, North America, you will be having 4 regions. Assume that 4 regions or 5 regions if you have. That means two, 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 two. That each region is having zones. Again, it will be having minimum 2 zones. Zone 1, zone 2. That means here resource 1, here resource 1. So that is how this division will be up. This division will be done. Okay. So if you think that if you have some kind of a 50 infrastructure is there, 50 units of infrastructure is there in North America, South America, Europe, Asia, Australia, the infrastructure is divided like this, and that infrastructure is further divided into regions, and it is further divided into zones. Okay, in Google Cloud Platform, total we have 5 locations, 37 regions, 112 zones, 187 network edge locations. It is available in 200 plus countries and territories. 200 plus countries and territories. Okay, so this is how the entire GCP's infrastructure details and location details. Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I do have a question.
Yes, Kishore.
So we are saying there are 5 locations, right? Meaning 5 data centers, or in to just to relate to the today's
No,
world.
no, no. It's not. It's plenty of data centers. Okay. So it is, you can think of like a one zone is equal to one data center.
Okay.
That means one, two data centers you can think of.
So in that case, let's say if BQ is my resource that I want to deploy on the platform.
Mhm.
Uh, what is the role of deployment zone, and what is the impact
That
of
we will see.
location?
That we will see. Okay.
Oh,
That's we've not started. Yeah, that we will see.
okay, sir.
Okay. So this is how. Anyone have any other questions, please? Okay, so in a short form, if I have to say, Google Cloud Platform having a five locations. Those five locations are further divided into regions and zones. Why they are doing it? It's because the availability of the service has to be available only. For example, assume like this. So GCP might have only the available resources are. I mean, GCP's infrastructure only available here. It says South America or North America, whatever it is. Assume that GCP's infrastructure is only available here. It is not available in any other countries or locations. Okay, what will happen, sir? Assume that if you are from India and you wanted to do a deployment in the Google's infrastructure. So what you have to do, you have to all the way deploy your service on top of this from here to here. You have to all the way deploy your application from all the way from India to North America. Okay, when you're deploying on top of the North America's infrastructure, the deployment actually takes a lot of time. It's because your network, there will be a network lag. The availability of the service may not be available because you are all the way from a lot of, I mean, all the way you are trying to connect it to the infrastructure which is not near to you. And one more thing is that there will be a latency of that particular service. And after that, assume that you have deployed it, and after that you wanted to access it. So if you wanted to access your application again, there will be a network latency and delay of that particular service. The availability of the service will be very less. So that is the reason Google Cloud Platform don't wanted to do these kind of problems to the users. So that is the reason they have situated their uh, infrastructure in each and every location. Google infrastructure is available in the five locations: one, two, three, four, five. Okay, so these five locations are further divided. For example, if I take this particular location, Asia, we have the regions like Delhi region, Mumbai region, this one, Mumbai, all of these things are. And these regions are further divided into zones. Mumbai 1A, Mumbai 1B, Mumbai 1C, Mumbai 1D. So that if I wanted to do the deployment, I don't need to go to all the way from my home to this location. I can actually deploy on top of my Mumbai's data center, Mumbai's infrastructure. Okay, so that is what you can do is, okay, your availability of the service is high. Okay, deployment will also be faster, and there won't be any latency also. Okay, so this is how GCP is running. This is how GCP's infrastructure is divided or organized into regions, zones. Now, you can see here, GCP is organized into regions and zones. When I say GCP, that means GCP's infrastructure is organized into regions and zones. Each region is a collection of zones. The regions are available in Asia, Australia, Europe, North America, and South America. Okay, so look at here. So assume that you have five locations, right? Take one of the location. Each location will be having regions. Region 1, region 2, region 3, region 4. Each location, I'm talking about one location only, guys. If I take location A, that location will be having plenty of the regions. That each region having plenty of the zones. Okay, region will be having four zones. Region 2 will also be having four zones. Region 3 also will be having four zones. If I take one of the zone, each zone is connected to the one more zone via high bandwidth network, and each zone will be having the infrastructure, virtual machines and disks. So that is the reason each zone nothing but each data center. So you can think of this is one data center. Okay. So this is what it is. Okay. Data center means in the data center you will be having the infrastructure or resources. Okay. So that's the reason it is called as the availability zone, also called as a deployment area, because on top of the data centers infrastructure only you are going to deploy it. Okay, so this is what is something that each zone is nothing but a one of the data center. That's the reason each region will be having more than two or three data centers. Minimum two data centers will be there in a region. Okay, so this is how the division will be there. If you take one of the location, each location will be having regions. Each region is having the zones and they are connected together. And each zone will be having the data center. Inside that, you will be having the resources or nothing but a one infrastructure. And that infrastructure is provided to you as a service. Google is providing you those infrastructure or a resources as a service to you, so that you are using those services to do your application deployments and to do your data analysis or data engineering activities. Okay, so this is how the GCP's locations. And anyone have any questions? Yes, all zones are interconnected, all regions are interconnected.
So from the console, the cloud console, would we be able to know like whether when we create a project or we have services associated with it, will will we be able to see the location or zone information for that? Where is it
Yes, yes,
exactly
yes.
deployed? Okay, okay.
Yeah, we can able to see that. So whenever we wanted to deploy one or whenever we wanted to create any of the resource or any of the service, we must
Mm-hmm.
create the look. We must select the location, proper location, because the location is the one which is telling you indirectly is that you are going to create some kind of a storage on top of that physical location. So if you are storing some data, that means in that physical location your data is available. Okay,
Okay,
physically your data is available in that particular location. That means in that particular data center only your data is going to be stored. That is what is underlying mean of whenever you select a location.
okay.
Okay, yeah. Yes, Vinod, you are asking something. Correct. Yeah, this is what each and every location is connected to that. And network edge locations is something that, so you if you wanted to do any of the I mean if you wanted to do any of the activities, everything will be via a network only, right? So each and every data center will be connected to the one more data center. Okay, via network. Yes, yes. So we are having multiple sessions. Yes. Yeah. So let us try to see what is regions and zones, guys. Yeah, sorry. If anyone have any questions, please. Yes, Mohan. Yes, Mohan. Yeah. No, you don't need to. I mean, we can't see like that, but we can see from a public documentation, we can able to gather that information. It will be like this. Just think about it like this. So, for example, if the infrastructure is near, oh, sorry, for if the bank is near to you, the if you wanted to do some kind of a banking activities, is it easy for you to or not? Yeah, if it is all the way in the New Delhi, if you wanted to do the transactions, what you have to do? Again, you have to go to the New Delhi, and which is hard for you. which is taking a lot of time, which is putting where you are putting a lot of effort. When the bank is there in the New Delhi, you are putting a lot of effort. That's where, I mean, if you wanted to do a transaction, if it is nearby, you can just do it in a 1 hour. But when you wanted to do a transactions, you are taking a lot of time, efforts, and delaying the time. So that is what. So by minimal, I mean, this is what the concept also. This is, even though you go to the documentation also, this says the same thing. So if you, whatever the infrastructure that you are looking for, if it is near to you, those topics will come into the picture. And if you wanted to do those things, and if it is near to you, the availability will be very high. Yeah, that topic will come. Yes, you can do that. You can do that. That's not a problem. You can set up your servers in different locations. That's not at all a problem. But the thing is that, yeah, what happens is that if you have the same thing in one location, the performance will be very high. Okay. So that's what it is, right? So assume that you and, for example, assume that you have a brother, and your brother is there, and you wanted to go to a bank, and if you have if you have the accounts in both of the accounts in same bank, you can able to just go to there and do the transactions, come back home. But if you have your accounts in different banks, and the manageability is very hard, right? That's where you are wasting some amount of time, right? Similarly here also, when you are deploying your applications in different locations, what happens is that connecting it to that network, and doing some activities on top of the different networks is actually takes a time and latency also there. So that's the reason the performance will be decreased for your application. Okay. Yeah. Okay, guys, we will see. And though all of those topics will come into the picture here whenever I talk about a selection criteria. So, what is region? So, we already know that region is an independent geographic area that is consisting of zones. Okay, a region is one of the division in division in the location. So when you divide the locations, you will be coming a one independent geographic area, that is you calling as a region. And region will be consisting of zones, right? Zones and regions are the logical abstraction of underlying physical resources provided in one or more physical data centers. So when you say how these regions and the zones are divided, if you ask me, it's based on the logical abstraction of underlying physical resources. So that I will tell you. It's because, so some amount of resources that you're finding it in one region, you may not be able to find it in another region. Some amount of resources that you are finding in one zone may not be available in the one more zone, may or may not sure about it, because it's purely our logical abstraction. When I say logically, they have divided into these regions and zones, and how they have divided is you can able to see it. If you wanted to see whether that particular service available in that particular location or not, whenever you're trying to access it, you will be able to see it. Okay, if it is not available, you can't select the location. If it is available, you can able to select that location. Okay, so it is purely a logical abstraction of underlying physical resources, and provided in one or more data centers. Each region is consisting of one or more data centers. It's because you can just think of like one zone is equal to one data center. So each region is a multiple zones, nothing but a multiple data centers. Okay, and GCP's regions are designed to provide high availability, low latency for applications and services in those regions. Why this regions and zones concept is that they wanted to provide the services highly available and low latency for applications that are deployed into the Google's platform. Okay, the main advantage of regions and zones or GCP locations is that, so whenever you do the proper division, the availability of the services will be very high, and the latency of the service also very less. Okay, so one of the region is you have US Central One. Okay, if you take one of the region, the example for the region is USA LOA. You call it as a one US Central One. Region is an independent geographic area in a location. Regions consist of zones. And regions and zones are logical abstraction of underlying resources. Each region is nothing but a collection of zones, is nothing but a collection of machines, collection of data centers. And the main importance of regions and zones, why they are designed is such a way that to provide you the high availability and low latency for your applications deployed in the Google Cloud platform. Okay. And next thing, you have a zone. I told you already, zone is one of the part of region. Okay, a zone is a deployment area where Google Cloud resources within a region. Okay, so a zone is a deployment area for Google Cloud resources, guys. Why I call it a deployment area? Because on top of the Google Cloud resources only, we are going to deploy our application. So that's the reason a zone is a deployment area within a region. Zones are separated from each other within a region to provide the fault tolerance and resilience. Okay, so you can able to see, and one more thing also, each zone is connected to a high bandwidth network and low latency. Okay, each zone is separated from one more zone and connected by a high bandwidth network and low latency network, so that whenever there is a requirement of application, whenever there is a requirement of multi zones, then you can actually use these networks, use this high bandwidth network. Okay, whenever you wanted to deploy your application in a multiple zones, you can actually go for this one. Okay, that actually avoids the fault tolerance. Okay, zones are physically separate from each other within a region to provide the fault tolerance and resilience. So let us try to see how it actually works. Okay, so for example, whenever you are deploying your application, so assume that, so this is some North America. This is North America. This is North America's data center or infrastructure, you can think of. And this is India. Okay, this is India, guys. So you have a plenty of the people. You wanted to create one application for the Indian users. You have a plenty of Indian users are there. Okay, so what do you wanted to do is that your company wanted to deploy, create a one application. Okay, you have designed one application and you wanted to deploy the application. So what do you try to do? You try to deploy it on top of the North America's data center. Assume that if you try to deploy your application on top of your North America's data center, what is the problem? There will be a network lag while you're deploying it. The latency will be there. That particular application may not be available to you, less available. Okay, when you try to deploy your application, so you have designed the code. Deploying means you have the code ready and you have wanted to deploy that code on top of the infrastructure. When you try to deploy that on top of the North America's data center, North America is very far away from India. And whenever you try to do the deployment, there will be a network latency and there will be a lag and there will be a less availability of the resource. Okay, due to this one, the deployment takes a lot of time. Okay, you have deployed it and your application is running successfully here. Your application is running successfully in the Google's North America's infrastructure. Okay, now this application is used by the Indian users. So whenever someone is trying to access your application, that application may not be available to them all the time. It's because it is very far away. And one more thing is that application, whenever you try to access it, there will be a lag. There will be a latency of your application. The seek time to access your application is very high. So if something is taking a lot of time, we don't want it to use the application at all. So that is the reason what happening is that you are going to lose your business. Okay, when you wanted to deploy your application, if you don't select a proper location, this leads to a lot of problems. You may lose your business also. Okay, whenever you're deploying your application, try to select a proper location. Okay, you see here you have selected a North America's data center. That's perfectly fine. North America has the plenty of the infrastructure. That's the reason you have selected it. But the thing is that your application is taking a lot of time. There is a lot of latency for your application. So your target users are facing a lot of crime. So whenever they are facing a lot of problems, they don't use your application from now on. Then you are going to lose your business. So that's the reason selecting a proper location or selecting a proper region and zone is one of the important aspect whenever you are trying to deploy your application. This leads to a lot of problems, or this leads to increase your performance as well. If you have selected a proper location, the performance of your application is very good. If you did not select a proper location, then there will be a lot of network latency and lag will be there for your accessing the application. So what do we need to do, sir? So whenever you are deploying your application, try to deploy your application near to your target users. Okay, so whenever you wanted to deploy your application, try to deploy your application in a region or a zone which is near to your target users or customers. So look at here. So my target users are near to my India. Target users are there in India only. So if I try to deploy my application, what happens is there is a network lag. I don't want it to go for that one. So if I wanted to deploy my applications, I select a location or select a region or a zone which is near to my target users. So how do I do that? Instead of deploying here, I try to deploy it here inside the Indian data center such as Mumbai or Delhi. I try to deploy my application Mumbai or Delhi so that the network latency for accessing the application for the target users is very less. So they can able to access the application easily, and the performance of the application is also very good. So this is what we call as a first selection criteria. In a selection criteria, when deploying the resources in GCP, it is important to consider the proximity of the region or a zone to your target users or the customers. Okay, so this is one of the selection criteria. If you wanted to select your application, or if you wanted to select a location for your application deployment, try to select the location which is near to your target users or zones, so that the application time so that the accessing the application is very good and the performance of the application is very fast. Okay, so this is what is one of the first selection criteria, guys. Does anyone have any questions? Please raise your hand. If anyone have any questions, please raise your hand, guys. Please raise your hand, please. Yes, Kranti, sorry. 1 minute, please. 1 minute, please. Yeah. So yeah, yes, Kranti, sorry. Correct, like that only, right? So, for example, I have a bank. I wanted to create an SBI account in a SBI. So, for me, New Delhi is very near, and Hyderabad branch is also very good. But instead of going to the Hyderabad branch, because instead rather than the Hyderabad branch, if I select the New Delhi, for me it's easy, right? If I wanted to travel there and do the transactions. So that is what the same thing here also. Yeah. Yes, Kishore.
So I understand the concept of why we want to choose the nearest location to maintain the those factors of network latency and other stuff. Just in case if you want to go for PDE, what would be the emphasis on this topic?
Sorry.
Just in case if you want to take the PDE,
Okay.
what would be the emphasis of this topic? Like,
So all of these topics are very important, guys. That's what I'm telling you. All these topics are very important. When you select a GCP location, at least one question will come from here. Okay, don't look at as a one topic that I have to learn, but look at it as a one of the topic and where how this Google is managing their infrastructure and how it will be very useful for me whenever I wanted to deploy one application. Okay. So all these topics are very, very important. I'm telling you, even if you go to the associate cloud engineer exam or a professional data engineer exam, at least one or two questions will come from the GCP's locations. Okay. Yeah. Knowledge of GCP locations is very important. Okay. Anyone have any other question, please? Yes, Arjun.
Like if you deploy one application and few resources are there in India and few resources are there some location. Okay, like we selected one location like India or any US central one, so it will be impact to the other resources as well, right? So for that scenario, which location is best?
No, no, no. It depends, right? It depends for your resources. See, for example, you are storing some data in North America, and your application is deployed here. For your application to access the data, right? Your application needs some kind of a data to access it. Again, there is a latency for the application to read the data from the particular service, and
Yeah,
there will be latency again. So
yes.
instead, if you have it in a single, that's what I told you. The example is that if you have two brothers, if there are two persons, if they are having the bank account in one in New Delhi, one in Hyderabad, then there will be a problem, right? So if they wanted to travel, so they have to travel all the way from their home to one to New Delhi, one to Hyderabad, and do the transactions and come back. Instead, if they have their account in Hyderabad itself, they can. It's easy to manage for them, right? So that's what I'm talking.
No, sir, I didn't get uh, like suppose in our application I didn't get your point, sir. Could you please explain one more time?
It's the same thing. That's what, for example, your application you have deployed. Your
Hmm?
application is deployed here. Okay, that application data is available here.
Okay.
So if you wanted to access, if this application has to access this data, do you think it's easy?
No.
It's not easy. It's because it's all the way in the North America to for application to have the data from this one, there will be a lot of latency, right? There's a lot of if you are trying to move the data over the network, it takes a lot of time.
Mhm. Yes.
So if you try to decrease this network latency, try to if you have your application here and the data also here, then it's easy, right? Manage it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is what.
Okay, sir. Thanks.
Yes. So this is how whenever you try to deploy your application, what is the first point says is that whenever you try to deploying the resources in the GCP, it is important to consider the proximity of the region or a zone to your target users or the customers. Okay, so this is the first thing that you try to remember. And the next point is that, so what happens, for example, look at the second point. To deploy the fault tolerant applications with high availability and help protect against the unexpected failures, deploy your applications across multiple zones in a region. Okay, to deploy the fault tolerant applications with high availability and help protect against the unexpected failures, deploy your applications across multiple zones in the region. So what they are saying is that Assume that you have a one of the region. Okay, you have a region, and in that region you have zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. Okay, you wanted to deploy one application, and I already told you that each zone is connected to the one more zone via high bandwidth network. Okay, so whenever you wanted to deploy one application, so what do? You select the zone and you deploy your application here. Okay, you try to deploy your application on top of a zone. What happens if this zone is having some kind of unexpected failure like earthquake or tsunami happen? What happened to your application? What happened to the zone is nothing but a data center. On top of the data center, you have deployed your application. So when you deployed your application, so that particular has an unexpected failure of earthquakes or the tsunami or some other unexpected failure might have happened, so that your entire zone or a data center will be crashed. If the entire data center is crashed, your application may not be available. So if your application is accessed by some people, they cannot be able to access your application because your application is not available at all, because that particular entire data center itself, it is not available because it is due to the earthquake or a tsunami, it is crashed. So there your application is not available, so your target users are facing a lot of problems. Okay, so this is what happens, guys. Okay, so this is what happens whenever you try to deploy your application in one of the zone or one of the region. Okay, if whenever you are trying to deploy your application in one of the region or one of the zone, if we do not know that, right, what will happen in the next second? So if there are any problems due to the unexpected failures, there will be a issues like this. Okay, there will be issues like this. So to avoid the unexpected failures, what we can do? Can anyone tell me?
Usually we go with disaster recovery plan.
So can I deploy the application, same application here also?
Yes.
So whenever my application is, so that I am deploying my application in the two zones, what happens is that whenever you try to deploy your application in a multiple zones, so that means your application is also running here as well in the zone 1 and zone 2. So your application target users are not available to connect it to this application. They can able to connect it to this application because due to some unexpected failure, the zone 1 is crashed, so that they can able to access it from the zone 2. Assume that this zone 2 is also failed. So try to deploy your application in the zone 3, so that your target users able to access your application from the zone 3. So this is what we call as a second point, where whenever you wanted to deploy your application, don't just deploy in one single zone. It's because that zone may be undergoing an unexpected failures. Try to deploy your application in a multiple zones in a single region, so that whenever you deploy it, your application is available in all the zones, so that even though if one or two zones are failed, you can able to have your application running and connected to the users via third zone. So this is what is your second selection criteria. Okay, that also you can go, you instead of deploying in only in the genes, you can also deploy it in multiple regions as well. Okay, assume that this is region 2. You can also deploy your applications in multiple regions as well, multi regions as well. So that is also there. That is also second point only. So to avoid the unexpected failures or to be in the safer side, try to deploy your application in multiple regions or multiple zones. Okay.
So that comes with a cost, right, sir?
Yes, of course. It increases the cost. When you're getting some kind of a benefit, of course, there will be a cost associated for that. But I don't want it to lose the business. At any cost, I want my application to be running. In that case, I don't bother about the cost. So my application wanted to be available to the users. In such scenario, you can do this kind of a things. Okay, so you don't actually deploy your application manually in a single zone by zone, because we don't do that. So whenever you're trying to deploy your application, you select a multi zones. Automatically, it will be deployed in all the zones. So you don't need to manually deploy it here, deploy it here, deploy it here. You don't do that. Okay. So whenever you are deploying your application in any of the cloud platforms, you will be having you will be having an option to select the location, whether it is a single region or a single zone or a multi zone or a multi zones. So you can able to select that. Okay, so this is what happens. You don't need to because why we are having this high bandwidth network is that's the reason. Okay, when you're deploying your application by selecting this thing and you selected a multi zones, and that will be replicated to the one more zone. Okay, so it will be replicated to the one more zone. Whenever you're deploying your application on top of a one single zone, and if you select a multi zones, that application will be replicated to the one more zone. If you are storing the data also, if you're storing the data in the zone one and you selected a multi zones, what happens is that that data will be replicated to the zone 2 and zone 3 as well. Okay, so that is the reason you will be having high bandwidth network and low latency network. Okay, yeah, any questions on the second point? What is our second point says? To deploy the fault tolerant applications with high availability and help protect against the unexpected failures, deploy your applications across multiple zones in a region. Okay, we are trying to deploy your applications in a multiple zones. So this is what happens, guys. Okay, so this is our second point. Third point is that it's also essential to understand the pricing and availability of the services across different regions and zones as they may vary. Okay, it's also essential to understand the pricing and availability of the services across different regions and zones as they may vary. Okay, because look at here. So you have to look at two things. One is availability of the service, one more is cost whenever you are deploying it. So it is like this. For example, take zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, or region 1, region 2, region 3, anything you can select. Okay, you wanted to deploy your location, and but you are in a dilemma which location, which region, or which zone we have to select it. You are in a dilemma. So when you are in a dilemma, you can do like this. So you can do one thing is that one is availability of the service. Availability. Next thing is cost or pricing. So availability, for example, you wanted to store some data in the Google Cloud platform in a cloud storage, or you wanted to store the data on top of a virtual machine, sir. Okay, what is your requirement is that you wanted to store the data on top of a virtual machine. Okay, so you will go to the zone 1 and you will select that whether the zone 1 and the virtual machine is available in the zone 1 or not, whatever the location you have selected, right? In for that location, the virtual machine is available or not, you will select it. It is not available, but here it is available, here it is available. That means that particular resource is available in the zone 2 and zone 3, but it is not available in the zone 1, so you don't bother. Okay, that means you still are having a doubt that where I have to deploy it, because again zone 2 and zone 3 are there. Then you go to the cost and you check it. Anyway, I don't need to worry about it because the particular service is not available here at all. So for this one, assume that this is $90. Here it is $100. Tell me which one we have to select it, guys. Where we have to deploy our service.
Cheapest one.
Yes. Zone 2. We have to deploy on top of the zone 2. It's because your application resource is available here and the cost of that particular service also lesser. So this is how you have to select it. So this is what this is that whenever you are deploying the resources, understand the pricing and availability of the services, because that particular service you wanted to select it. Maybe while you're discussing, maybe your solution architect or your company's client, or whenever you're discussing something, you can't just discuss some randomly. Okay, we wanted to deploy it there. You can't just randomly select it, okay, while you're discussing. But you have to look at that, whether that particular service is available or not in that particular zone. Okay, then only you try to deploy it. And you can't just randomly select a location, I wanted to deploy it here. No. By considering two other points, you consider these 2 points and you selected a location or a region and you wanted to deploy it there. But while you're deploying it, it is also understand the third point, that is that particular service is available or not. Next thing is that cost model or pricing model. That particular service where we are deploying it is comparatively cost effective or not. Okay, so that is you have to select it. When we look at it, the zone 2 here, it is the resource is available and the cost is also comparatively cost effective. So I am deploying my application, I am storing the data on top of the zone 2. So this is what we can do. Okay, so this is our selection criteria too. Any question here, please? Yes, please. Okay. Yes. Yes. No, 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 not like that. No, 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 not like that. No. So we have seen, right? So whenever you are deploying it, this is just to give you an idea. When you are going for a region 1 or a region 2, region 3, to give you an idea, only I have told you, or zone 1 or zone 2 or zone 3. But when you're trying to deploy it, as I told you, you don't actually, for example, you wanted to deploy in two regions, here and here. You don't actually select like this, because each region and each zone is connected to the one more zone or a one more region via high bandwidth network. When you're deploying it, okay, when you're deploying the application here and you select a multi-zone, multi-regions, so what will happen is that backend it will be doing it. Okay, backend it will be data application is deployed to the multiple regions in the backend. You don't need to specifically deploy it is one thing, and there your effort is less. Okay, usually if you have to deploy it in multiple regions, you have to put a lot of effort. But the Google Cloud or any other cloud, what they do is that they give you one option. You wanted to go for multi zones or multi regions, or single zone or single region. So when you select a multiple regions, what happens is that by automatically the data will be stored to the multiple regions or multiple zones. Let me show you that option. No, 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 no. It's a Google. So okay, if when I say a region, it's where your resources available. Okay, Google's resources available. We already told you, we have total 137 regions and 112 zones. So you can only deploy there. You can't deploy rather than that. So I assume that I wanted to create a cloud storage bucket to store some data here. So you can see here I have given some name. Okay. Why? Yeah, see here. So you can also read this point. What it says, try to read this point. This choice defines the geographic placement of your data and affects the cost. See, geographic placement of your data, that means you are, whatever the location that you are selecting actually here, your data is geographically, physically available there in that location. Even though you go to that place and you verify it also, you will be able to see that. You can also check it there by physically visiting that location, and you'll be able to see that your data is available there only. Okay, so it always affects the cost, performance, and availability. As I told you that whenever you are selecting a location or a region or a zone, it affects your cost, it affects your performance, it affects the availability of the resources and network latency. Okay, selecting a proper location is a very, very important choice. Now look at here, you have a multi-regions. When you select a multi-region, so for example, let us select a single region. See here, I can select any of the region. So for me, when it is a single region, I can select any of the region. I can select a Mumbai also. I selected the Mumbai. Okay, the cost of the storage for per GB per month is equal to 0.023. Okay, if I wanted to store some data per GB per month, it is $0.023 per month per GB. If it is 100 GB, then it is $2.3 per month. Okay, sir, I wanted to go for the multi-region because I already understand that this data, whatever I am storing here, it is very, very important to me. It is a very crucial data. It is a very sensitive data. I don't want it to, at any cost, I don't want it to lose the data. In that scenario, what you will do is that you will select the multi-regions. Okay, multi-regions will give you, one thing is that data will be stored multiple regions. When the data is stored in multiple regions, you see here the cost is 0.026 first thing. And the Google or the Google Cloud platform is also doing one more activity for you, is that it is actually replicating your data to the multiple regions. So that's the reason for the default replication cost also there. The default replication cost also there, you can look at it. So this is the reason. So if you have like in a multi-regions, if you, for example, if you select a US, in the US you have a like 5 regions, all the regions will have the same data. And that was done by the Google Cloud. And Google had put a lot of effort to do the same thing. So if you have to manually do it, what you will be doing now? If you are doing it manually, for example, you have a 100 GB with you. Here region 1, region 2, region 3, region 4. For example, for the 100 GB, it is per region, it is 0.026. That means 100 GB means it is around $2.6. That means $2.6 here, $2.6 here, $2.6 here, $2.6. If you try to select a single region each time and store your data, this is how you have to spend. Instead, what the Google Cloud is doing that, okay, you don't worry about the data replication, you give the data to me and you select the location. Okay, you select the location. When you select the location and all the regions, in this region, you have all these region 1, region 2, region 3. The location cost is 0.026. That means 2.6. And the replication cost is 2.0. Total is how much, guys? 4.6. In this way, if you go, you are just paying 4.6. But in this way, if you go, how much it is that? 4 plus 5 plus 6, 6.4. 6.4. See here, you are spending $6.4 here, you are spending $4.6 here. Okay, which is cost effective? So this one. So instead, if you try to deploy it, you are putting a lot of effort and you are wasting the money also. When you go single zone by zone, single region by region, and if you deploy it manually, it takes $6.4 to you and a lot of effort also taken. But if you give the data to this one and if you select a multi-zones, so this is what the Google is doing for you, is that either you can go for the multi-zones or a single row, single zone. Okay, the cost associated is like this. Okay, so this is how it is. Does anyone, you have also auto turbo, you have also dual region, that means you can select two regions, region 1 and region 2. You can also select two regions. Okay, so that is how it is. Multi regions and multi zones. So this is how you'll be able to see it, guys. So whenever you are deploying your application, try to select this location properly. Okay, any question? Yes, please. Correct. No, not 112 112 zones, 37 regions. Yes, yes, zones are 112. Correct, correct. Okay. No, no, no. Mumbai is a one region and Delhi is a one more region. Okay, Mumbai is one region and Delhi is a one more region. So those are regions. Okay, these black color dots are regions. Okay, okay. No, no, no. They try to deploy the application in multiple regions. No, but they are okay with that, right? It's because they want their application to be available to all the users. The cost is not that much high. You might have seen already, right? I mean, yeah, same time for all the people, the application is available when you select a multi-region. So when you select a multi-regions, it will be available almost all the world. Okay, yeah. Yes, yes. In Delhi also will be having like 1 year, 1B, once. I think three jobs. Yeah, you can go and look at the Google and you'll be able to have GCP locations. Okay, in the documentation, GCP locations and regions and zones. You can go. You have here 39. Last time when I taken it was 37. It is 39. I wanted to increase this picture also, and you can able to see here. So they are keep on increasing it. So you can also go here. This is the updated picture. I have taken it from here. So for the Asia Pacific, you have here this one and the resource availability also you'll be able to see here, and here Mumbai and Delhi. Okay, Asia South 1, Asia South 2. Okay, so this is how you'll be able to see. And if you wanted to see few more things as well, I think okay, no. So this is what we can look at. This is also very important for us. So when you are deploying your application, you wanted it to deploy in a low carbon fuel, a low carbon footprint, and lower price and lower latency. So this is also you have to properly look at it. So if you wanted to look at the low carbon, US Central is. That's the reason most of the people, whenever we are deploying it for the practice purpose or demo purpose, we are actually deploying it in the US Central one. So this is the main reason. Okay, lower price when you look at the lower price also. So for all the that's the reason most of the times US Central one, even whenever I deploy it also I select the US Central one. It's because it's a carbon free energy. Okay, so that's it. That's one more thing. And if you wanted to select a few more things and category, if you wanted to look at the category of each zone and region, somewhere there will be, but you can actually go to the documentation and find it out. Okay, yeah. They are going to be the regions. They are going to be the regions in the future. Okay, future region with the three zones. Dots are nothing but the current zones, current regions. Okay, I mean that means in the future that particular zone is going to be built. That means there are building the data centers there now. Yeah. Yes, any yes, Chandramohan.
Yeah, if we select a single region, right?
Okay.
So by default, it will be replicated into the all zones,
No,
which
no,
is
no. If you select a single region, there won't be. You are saying about the
zones. I'm
multiple
talking
zones.
about zones,
Yeah.
right? You will
So
be
yes, it
having,
will be duplicated to the multiple zones. Yes.
okay.
The name of the zone or name of the region is just a name, guys. For us, it's just a name. Okay, for us, it is just a name. Maybe the entire activity is happening in the physical data centers. Okay, so when you actually say multi-regions, that means in a multi-regions you will be having zone one, zone two, zone three. In each zone, you will be having data center one, data center two, data center three. So there you are actually replicating your data via network. Okay. Yeah. and here. So this is how the network is connected. Someone was asking about, right? So 200 network connection. So this is how it is, edge locations, how they are connected. Okay. Any other questions, anyone? Okay, guys. This is it for today. And finally, the one of the point I wanted to Aki's final point is that the note we have, and by understanding the GCP regions and zones, can you guys tell me what we have understood? If I wanted to deploy, or if organizations to design and deploy their applications and services with high availability, resilience, and optimal performance, they have to select a proper location, region, and zone, right? So that is what we have understood. And it also helps meet the data compliance requirements and enables effective disaster recovery strategies. Okay. Yeah. So this is what we have done today. And by understanding this GCP regions and zones, you will be able to deploy your application with a high availability, resilience, and optimal performance. Okay. Okay, guys. This is it. Anyone have any questions, please?
So this is Kishore. I missed the class yesterday. May I know in just what was discussed yesterday?
So I think yesterday's was to create an account and telling you what is Google Cloud Platform, how to access how the interface of the GCP, and in yesterday's class we have discussed how to create a project, how to enable the building, how to manage the building, how to enable the APIs. So these are the 5 topics completed yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah. You can ask the admin team; they will provide you the video recording.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, guys, thank you all. This is it for GCP regions. Tomorrow we are going to talk about one more service, that is GCP's IAM and admin. We will see tomorrow. Okay. Yeah. And you can always go to my notes and look at the notes. And if you wanted to check it, GCP's notebook, GCP concepts, and Google Cloud, and you'll be able to see GCP locations. What is region? What is zone? The selection criteria and the importance. Okay, so it is a very important for us to decrease the latency, increase the high availability, compliance, and disaster recovery. All these topics are we have covered. Just go to my notes and recap yourself. Okay. Yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Bye bye. We will meet tomorrow at the same time. Thank you all. Bye bye.